since I've already had multiple people come up and ask me in the last 2 to 3 days what I think of the possibility of new 50-year mortgages. I thought I'd join the chorus of a lot of other people that are screaming on social media about what their opinions are on the subject of potentially having 50-year mortgages here in the United States, a half a century. That's unbelievable. I'm 48 years old myself, so that would be getting a mortgage in 1975 and just paying it off here in the next couple of months. So that's initially pretty wild. Also, those of you that know me on a more personal level know that I am a pretty big Dave Ramsey fan, right? I'm definitely like to be very, very judicious with debt, and I don't want to say I avoid it at all costs. That's not true, but I am very conservative and extremely judicious. So, my initial reaction was definitely along those lines of like, what the heck are they thinking? This isn't good for people. They're going to stay in debt forever. And there's certainly a level of risk there that people need to assess for themselves on that to see if they'd even want to ever consider a 50-year mortgage. One thing I have learned in 48 years of living on this planet and 21 years of selling real estate, and also 19 years of being married as well too, and 16 years of being a dad, is that throwing absolutes out that this is always a good idea or this is always a bad idea, you got to be pretty careful, right? So I'm going to give you my opinion on this. You can eat the meat and throw away the bones on that. Take it for what it's worth as somebody that's sold real estate for 21 years, invested in 23 years, and really tries to take a look at the broad picture and see what's really going on and see where maybe there could be a place for something like this. So I try to inform with data and not just spout opinions. So I try to inform with data to help me draw conclusions. Something you may have heard in about a week or so, it came out, the average first-time home buyer is 40 years old in the United States. That is not a typo, or you're not hearing that incorrectly. 40 years old is the average first-time home buyer in the United States right now. That's as high as it's ever been. What is low as it's ever been is the percentage of first-time home buyers in the real estate market. There are right now in 2025, there's going to be about 21% of transactions in 2025 here in the United States that are first-time home buyers. That is half of the amount of first-time home buyers from just back in 2007. I bought my first home back in 2002, 2003, a little duplex in Arcadia. I remember that very fondly. Back in when I was 25 years old. The reality of the situation is it's a very different time, right? And people that don't acknowledge that really just have their head in the sand and don't understand that this is a different world. So the truth of the matter is that homeownership is a lot harder for people to get in the game now than it was 15, 16, 20 years ago, and that bears that out in the sales. A 50-year mortgage could help people afford a little bit more home to be able to get in. It may cause some first-time home buyers to act and be able to afford a payment and start to build a little bit of equity. You'll definitely build it less because it's a 50-year mortgage, but it does get you in that home ownership side of the equation, right? The average first-time home buyer, or the average homeowner has 44 times the net worth of the average renter. And I think anything that we can do to encourage people to get on the positive side of that equation is a good thing. This is certainly not a cure-all. It's not the best solution, but I think it is maybe a step in the right direction. The average homeowner in America moves about every 11 or 12 years right now. The average mortgage lasts, I've heard differing reports, from around 7 years. I've heard some say up to 12, because the reality of the situation is you're either paying the mortgage off, you're moving, or you're refinancing. So these 50-year mortgages, if somebody's able to get in now, with a 50-year mortgage, and they got a little bit of appreciation, a little bit of equity buy down. If rates dropped, they could maybe refinance down into a 30-year mortgage. So it does provide maybe a little quicker access for home ownership. Again, I think we have to be careful with that. There's not a one size fits all, but I think it's another tool in the toolbox. And I think it's also important to remember that back, I think it was in 1956, I believe, maybe 1952, something like that, is when they came out with 30-year mortgages. And people thought that was terrible. You're kicking the can down the road. History has a way of repeating itself. This is an iteration of that as well too. So the reality of the situation is that as your money is worth less in an economy, you have to do things to kind of kick the can down the road. So again, I think there's I don't think it's a foolproof solution. I think it's a solution that can be used very judiciously, kind of like using an arm. But I think when you look at everything in context, there could be a place for this. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear if you have any other possible solutions that could help. Just off the top of my head, in about 2 minutes, and I may do future videos on this one, making building more affordable homes, cutting down the red tape for that, making that easier. That would be a more fundamental step for making home ownership more affordable. By the way, some of these builders are buying build to rent neighborhoods where they're not so much here in Indiana, but other parts of the country where builders are building out whole neighborhoods for investors. That's a whole other conversation that, again, is very dangerous precedent as far as I'm concerned. Another thing I would say is mortgage porting. If you don't know what mortgage porting is, I encourage you to look at how they do mortgages in Denmark and France a little bit as well too, some countries in Europe. That concept I think will be coming soon here to the United States. It may take a few years, but I think it's going to get here because I think that's something that could help the affordability concern and encourage people to move a little bit that are maybe sitting on homes. And the last one is to eliminate the cap on capital gains for personal residences. I'm going to talk about that in another video very briefly, but I think those are things that would be more fundamental ways to be able to make homes more affordable. But I do think a 50-year mortgage in the right context could be another tool in the toolbox. Love to hear your thoughts. Love to hear what you think about it. And as always, if you know somebody that is looking to make a move and wants to work with an agent and a team that stay on top of the market and on top of what's going on and try to find tools and strategies to fit them, we are never too busy for your referrals. Thanks so much.